Now, over the years, we have all witnessed what Kathleen Kennedy did with projects out there like the sequel trilogy films, as well as shows out there like the Kenobi and Boba Fett series and more, that really upset a lot of the fans and a large portion of the overall Star Wars fandom at heart. And exactly where that led the Star Wars division only made it more divided. Now, with that being all said, we know that Kathleen Kennedy is working on both Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the kind and great support. Now that brings us to exactly what Kathleen Kennedy recently had to say directly to the fans, and how it does involve another apology, and we're going to be chiming in on exactly what's going on here, what her true intentions are, and what she's really trying to do, because as you all know, whenever it comes to her, it's always some kind of strategy or some kind of strategic type of plan that she has to kind of market upcoming projects or to better her image in some way, shape, or form. So one thing about Kathleen is that this is a type of producer, a president of Lucasfilm that really just wants nothing to do with George Lucas at all. None of his creative ideas, nothing that's familiar with Star Wars to carry on over into both Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. And that's the biggest problem of all. However, when it does involve Kathleen Kennedy talking to the fans, every time and again, she'll actually apologize to the fandom, and it always comes off as like this insincere apology, and we're going to be diving into exactly what actually recently happened when it came to what she had to tell the fans and what she actually has planned for, of course, their upcoming shows. Now, with both Disney and Lucasfilm getting ready to make big announcements for the fandom at Celebration, both Favreau and Filoni recently, however, are working on over 12 Star Wars shows at once. Now, recently in an interview that Kathleen Kennedy took part in, she went on to apologize to the fandom directly about a couple of things by stating the following. I wanted to be more clear about my earlier statements on my view of the community that has supported us throughout the years. I want to apologize for saying that the fans that are loud and opinionated and only create more problems. It was never our intention here at Lucasfilm to upset so many fans around the world when it involved our Star Wars projects that we put into theaters or on the Disney Plus streaming platform. So, obviously, this is her kind of like just talking about her earlier statements that she talked about of how the loud and opinionated fans need to shut it. She literally said just need to shut it and need to stay quiet. And now she's kind of backtracking and saying that she's sorry for saying stuff like that, that she's also apologizing for some of the projects that they made over the years. We'll tap into that in just a second. Now, if you guys haven't heard any of her previous apologies, they're always kind of like very insincere, because she always kind of flips it to another thing, and it happened again in a similar way, alright? So we're going to talk about that also. Now, Kathleen Kennedy is one person that we all know that always tries to save her image. I mean, we've seen this many times. She is a person that likes to lie directly to the fans. I mean, this is a person that said that Legends does not exist. She said that there was no source material at all in existence to pull from for the sequel trilogy at all. And she was elaborating that it was actually in relation to there being no Legends material. So, on to the next big thing here. We already know that John and Dave are fixing a couple of scenes here and there for both the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. It's not going to be enough, most likely, to fix those shows, but it may just be enough to prevent them from being total disasters, because they are said to be working on heavy scenes that were very just out of place with the show and just not working. So let's get on to the next thing here. So she goes on to say, we simply believe in our creators and try to filter out the fans' opinions on things. However, we make mistakes. We realize fans held much criticism over The Last Jedi and our latest shows like Boba Fett and Kenobi. And just know that we are trying to do better now at shows like The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. So there you have it. She has to plug in those shows during her apology. Moving on. She goes on to say that is going to actually detach from anything related to George Lucas and will have a low likelihood of upsetting fans. So basically, a part of her apology, this is what I'm talking about, is that it eventually goes to her projects that she's working on, and how now fans are not going to be upset about these two upcoming Star Wars shows, Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, because it has no familiar aspects of Star Wars, hence we can't get that upset. That's basically what she's saying, and I think it's a very, very bad point to put in your apology, and a very bad point to just say period. You know, I think that fans, on the flip side, are not going to like it because of that, because of its detaching from George Lucas's vision, is the main reason why fans are going to have a big problem. I mean, that's just a fact. When you look at what they were going to do with the Rian Johnson trilogy, we talked about this just yesterday, of how it was going to be based in a different galaxy and have no familiar aesthetics of Star Wars. That would have not flied at all with the community, at least the majority. You would have probably had a minor amount of followers that would have loved Rian Johnson's trilogy through and through, you know, even if it did have nothing to do with George's vision. But overall, this is Kathleen Kennedy. This is typical Kathleen Kennedy, always kind of trying to save her image and trying to really kind of insert or promote her upcoming projects. She goes on to say, "Since we are writing something on a blank canvas. So again, I am sorry if we did not meet expectations with recent projects over the years, but we are aiming to do great things in the future for this year and next. It has been both a challenge and a fun experience on my end at Lucasfilm." Now again, we already know that Bob Iger is getting ready to get rid of her by this August. Even the Disney board is very unhappy with her. They've been very, very annoyed about her prematurely announcing Star Wars movies, only for them to never happen, let alone never go into production. And that really caused a lot of problems on Disney's end, because that's giving them a bad image then of announcing non-existent projects. You know, that was all Kathleen Kennedy's fault, and she really announced them in a very bad way. Now, when you look at things like this too, we already know that Kathleen Kennedy is going to have a very tough time, not just with Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, but she's also going to have a very tough time, I believe, with Dial of Destiny, if it turns out to be a complete flop, or if it does not meet box office, you know, expectations, or if it just does not do well, or does not reach the fan reception that they're hoping for. That's when Kathleen Kennedy, I believe, is gonna finally realize that whatever she's doing is not working. Now, again, Disney wants her out of Lucasfilm by this August. She signed a severance deal, apparently, that was worth $20-something to $30 million. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, getting that much money to get basically laid off is insane. So, as always, we always see this kind of thing when it comes to Hollywood, and it just never gets old. It always happens, and Kathleen Kennedy is probably the biggest example. So, anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.